Hi dudes, welcome to my channel. Salamat 2020. We'll be going to ingest some of the topics of pre-calculus. Yun ang hyperbola. Karamihan ng mga estudyante have not encountered this kind of graph before. Meron tayong mga prepared questions and answers with the complete solutions. So guys, keep on watching. I'm sure you will learn so much here. Ito po yung ating graph ng hyperbola, horizontally aligned as the origin as the center. May mga hyperbolas have their foci aligned vertically. Yan ang ating pag-uusapan in my next video. Each graph consists of two unbounded branches which extend in opposite direction. Tampok natin ngayon ang mga points of the graph of the hyperbola with the standard equations. Yan, x squared over a squared minus y squared b squared is equal to 1. And we can also use this equation for some unknown points on the foci. Yan, a squared plus b squared. So with the center at the origin, and given also the two foci, if one is quantity of negative c0 and the other focus is f sub 2 c0, and we have also the vertices. It is indicated as b sub 1 negative a0 and b sub 2 a0. So joining the two lines or the segment that is called, tawag niyan is transverse axis na may sukat itong 2a, since a units away from the center, that is a vertex, and the other segment which is perpendicular to the transverse axis at the center, ang tawag nito is conjugate axis na may sukat din ng 2b. It's also considered minor axis. And we have another point in the hyperbola, tawag asymptotes. So these are the two lines passing through the center which serves as a guide in graphing the hyperbola. So ang bawat branch of the hyperbola gets closer and closer to the asymptotes in the direction towards which the branch extends. These are all the features of the graph of the hyperbola with standard equations given. So we now proceed to our activity, what I know. Just to take a look what you already know about the lesson. May 10 tanong tayo dito. Ang unang tanong, it goes like this. What do you call the line segment joining two vertices in a hyperbola? So, meron tayong choices dito. A, conventional axis. B, rotational axis. C, transverse axis. D, minor axis. Kung titingnan natin yung graph ng hyperbola, so we are asking the line segment in joining two vertices in a hyperbola. So, meron tayong segment dito, joining two vertices, b sub 1, b sub 2. Tawag niyan is transverse axis. So that is segment b sub 1, b sub 2 is called the transverse axis na may sukat na 2a. So the answer is letter C, transverse axis. Okay, for number 2. Which of the following is the standard form of the equation of a hyperbola if the major axis is horizontal and the center is at the origin? So ito yung choices natin. A, B, C, and D. Kung titingnan natin yung graph ng hyperbola, so meron tayong listed points, yung mga features of the graph of the hyperbola, but we are asking for a major axis in horizontal and the center at the origin represented by variable c. So we have the segment joining the two vertices. Tawag niyan is transverse axis, which is the major axis in horizontal, and another segment which is a perpendicular transverse axis, tawag conjugate axis, vertical. So the major axis is horizontal. So the answer here is B. So yan ang ating standard equation sa hyperbola. Okay, let's move for number 3. Ito yung tanong natin. Given the equation x squared over 4 minus y squared over 16 is equal to 1. Identify the foci. Okay, ito yung mga choices natin. For A, yan. B, C, and D. Again, gagamitin natin yung standard equations of the hyperbola, that is x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared is equal to 1. Yan. In order to visualize these equations, so gamit din natin yung graph ng hyperbola. So let use the c is equal to square root of a squared plus b squared. So this is another point for the focus. So c is equal to square root of 4 plus 16. The value of a squared is 4 in our given equations, and b squared is 16. So okay, get the sum of 4 plus 16 is 20, plus natin yan, then the square root of 20, so we must factor 4 times 5, then the square root of 4 is 2. Since this is radical, we can use plus or minus. Square root of 4 is 2, then may 1 yung 5, square root of 5. So since we asking to identify the foci, so here, ito yung point natin sa f of 1. That is for other focus, f of 2. So this is the point, positive 2 square root of 5. So what do you think the answer? So the answer is A. Okay, for number 4, ito yung tanong. What is the equation of the graph? So given the points on the foci and the vertices, so ito yung mga choices natin. For letter A, yan. Letter B, yan. C, and D. So gamit natin yung standard equations of the hyperbola, x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared is equal to 1, since our graph is at the center. Let c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. So meron tayong transitions of the formula here. B squared is equal to ang a squared transpose natin magiging is negative a squared. So b squared is equal to c squared minus is squared. So the foci here, c units away from the centers is c, is equal to 7. That is 7 squared. Then our A, that is represented by the vertex. Ibig sabihin yan, A units away from the center. Yan ang sa vertex. Ang sukat is 4. So 4 squared. So 7 squared is 49. 7 times 7, 49. Minus 4 times 4, 16. Then get the difference. 4 minus 16 is 33. So we have here B squared is equal to 33. Yan. Hanapin natin sa choices. So C. The answer is C. Yan. B squared. 33 is squared is 16. So, okay, for number 5. Find the standard equations of a hyperbola with foci at quantity -1 and 2 and quantity 5, 2 and vertices at 0, 2 and quantity 4 and 2. So ito yung mga choices natin. A, yan, B, yan, C, and D. Bago niyan, so we're going to plot on the graph all the points here. So -1 and 2, so belong in the second quadrant, and quantity 5, 2, here is the point that is our one of the foci, F2. Then the vertices, so B sub 2, yan, nauna yung B sub 2, and the B sub 1, 0, 2. So we can use these standard equations of the hyperbola since our center is not at the origin, given the H and K. So the center of the hyperbola is quantity of 2 and 2, which is our H and K. Generally, that is our center. Okay, so C units away from the center is represented by F1. Focus, that is our focus. It defines as the value of C is equal to 3, and A for vertex, so A units away from the center is A is equal to 2. So kahit bilangin natin yan by interval, so we can use again C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared. So transitions of the formula, B squared ang A squared transpose, so it becomes C squared minus A squared. So C squared becomes 9 since the value of C is equal to 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. Our A is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Then subtract 9 minus 4 is 5. That is our B squared. So ang ating center is represented by H and K. So the value of the center is 2 and 2. So the answer is A. Look at our A. So yan. For number 6, what is the center of the hyperbola with the vertices? Quantity of 0 and 2 and quantity of 0 and -2. So ito yung choices natin. A is -1, B is 1, C is 3, D is 0. So kung i-plot natin sa ating graph, so 0 and 2 dyan along the positive y-axis, the other point is below the positive y-axis. So we are interested for the center of the hyperbola. So the center here is at the origin, so center is 0. The answer is D. For number 7, given the hyperbolic equation x squared over 4 minus y squared over 12 is equal to 1, what should be the length of the transverse axis? So ito yung mga choices natin, A, B, C, and D. So with these standard equations of the hyperbola, so ibig sabihin nito, the graph of the hyperbola is at the center of origin kasi wala tayong H and K dito. So that is, so tingnan natin sa graph. To plot the given equations, so ito yung makuha natin na graph where the center is at the origin, and we have here the segment joining the two vertices. So tawag niyan is transverse axis. So if we let a squared is equal to 4 given in our equations, so 4 is square root of a squared, squaring both sides. So a is equal to 4 is 2. So sa bawat vertex is a units away from the center. So that is the a is equal to 2. So same with the other side. So we are asking for the length of the transverse axis. So transverse axis is equal to 2a. So nakuha natin yung value ng a, that is 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. So the length of the transverse axis is 4. The answer is D. For number 8, so our question is x squared over 64 minus y squared over 36 is equal to 1. Where can we find the foci? So ito yung mga choices natin, A, B, C, and D. So to visualize in our graph of the hyperbola, yan ang ating graph of the hyperbola, horizontally aligned, since our focus is C units away from the center, same with the other focus. So let A squared is equal to 64 and B squared is equal to 36. So given the f of 1, negative C0, and f 2 is positive C and 0. So C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared. So C squared, E squared is given 64 plus B squared is 36. So get the sum, 64 plus 36 is 100, and squaring both sides. So square root of 100 is 10. So to locate the foci, so this is the value of our foci, negative 10. Yeah, f of 1 natin. For f of 2, since positive x-axis, so gawin natin yung positive 10. So tingnan natin sa ating choices. The answer is A, positive and negative 10 and 0. For number 9, a quantity of x minus 5 squared over 64 minus y minus 4 squared over 36 is equal to 1. What line represents the transverse axis? So choices natin, A is equal to y is equal to 8, B is y is equal to 4, C, y is equal to negative 2, dy is equal to negative 4. So we are using this standard equation since h and k are given. So the center of the graph of the hyperbola is not at the origin. We are asking for the line represents the transverse axis. So hanapin natin yung line which represent the transverse axis. So let a squared equals to 64, so squaring both sides. So a square root of 64 is 8. Sa bawat vertex is a units away from this center. Same with the other vertex, that is b sub 2. So that is represented by b sub 1 and b sub 2. So meron tayong value ng a natin, nakuha natin yung kanina is equal to 8. Tingnan natin yung center of the hyperbola is 5 and 4. That is our h and k. So we have here the segment joining b sub 1 and b sub 2. Ang tawag niyan is transverse axis. So the transverse axis intersecting the positive y-axis, the y is equal to 4. So look at the choices. So the answer is B. Y is equal to 4. For number 10, what equations of a hyperbola satisfies the following condition? Center at quantity 4, 3, length transverse axis is 8, and length of the minor axis 4. So we have here the choices. Yan ang choices natin. A, B, C, and D. So, meron tayong concept dito. The segment is sub 1, sub 2 is called the transverse axis and has measured 2a. 2a is equal to 8 since the length of the transverse axis is 8. Given the transverse is 2a, so the length is 8. So divide both sides by 2. So 8 and 8 divided 2 is 4. And the segment which is perpendicular to the transverse axis has length minor axis 2b, that is a conjugate. 2b, the minor axis is 4. So 2b is equal to 4. Divide both sides by 2. So b, 4 divided by 2 is 2. So this time meron tayong value ng A is 4, B is 2. But the center, meron tayong H which is 4, K is 3. So gamitin natin yung equation with the H and K since the center is not at the origin. So let us manipulate X minus 4 since our h is 4 and y minus 3 since our k is 3. So ang a natin is 4, yung nakuha natin kanina is 4 times 4, 16. Then b is 2, then b squared is 4. So yan, tingnan natin sa choices kung meron ba. So the answer is B. Okay, yan lang po ang ating 10 tanong about the hyperbola. Just comment below kung may mga more questions. And thank you for watching and your time. God bless.